Speaking of Avengers, we're going to move on to our next segment, Marvel movies, how they began and where it is now. I want to start this off by saying a lot of you all, the audience, the consumer, you may not know Marvel in its entirety. All you know of Marvel is the MCU and the Disney Plus, the shows, and etc. But I'm going to do a little quick history for you. Marvel used to be in the shitter. Marvel was on the verge of bankruptcy back in the day. Comic book sales were down, money just wasn't coming in. Like when I say they were really on the verge, I'm talking about they had licensed out characters and still was in the red, still was struggling. So much so that they were on the verge of bankruptcy and they had final shot. They put everything on the line and made a cute little indie film, quote unquote, called Blade. And it was so successful that they made it a trilogy and it brought them back from the depths of going out of business and dying. And from that, they did one little movie called catapulted them from the verge of going out of business, plateau of cinema to now to whatever the hell they are now. Trice, let's start with you.
Yeah, so let's just have story time with Trice for a minute right now. I'm gonna go in a little detail with what he just said. So in the early '90s, Marvel was mainly a comic book producer, like you said, and owned collective comic sales and toy licensing. That's how they made their income in the early '90s. And then the comic book market bubble burst around 93, 94 from oversaturation, gimmicky covers and stuff like that. So, of course, who did that hurt? Marvel. And Marvel filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 1996. And because of they was buried in so much debt, they decided, hey, let's license out Spider-Man went to Sony, X-Men and the Fantastic Four went to Fox, and the Hulk went to Universal. That's how they made it out of that 1996 Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And so after that, they had a recovery strategy under some new leadership at the time. And they decided Marvel couldn't just be a comic publisher anymore. The publisher money making was pretty much over. They needed to figure out a new way to generate income for the business. This is when they start saying, hey, we need to get into entertainment brand. And this is what made Blade 1998 from that mindset that we need to get into entertainment brand. That's where money is being made now. And we can use our catalog and basically bring it to big picture and make money like that instead of trying to sell 99 cents comics at the time. Blade came out in 1998. The other studios brought out X-Men in 2000, was a major success. Spider-Man 2002, huge hits. And because of that brand recognition that, everybody knew from comics at the time that Spider-Man and X-Men is a Marvel character, it fueled them even more to say, hey, we still got control over these amount of characters. Because it was a big gamble at the time for them to not sell off all the characters, everything they had on the table at the time. Sony and Fox, I think at the time, looked at the characters and they said that they was irrelevant, basically. That they want the best characters, recognizable, things like that. And that's why Spider-Man and X-Men and Fantastic Four and Hulk was because they felt like the other characters that Marvel had to offer was kind of irrelevant. And so, like I said, going on, progressing, we're in 2005 now. Marvel makes Marvel Studios. They start licensing characters and they wanted to produce their own film. And to fund this fucking huge loan, they took a $525 million loan from this guy named Lynch and started using film rights to characters like Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, and, everybody else. In 2008 now, 3 years later, that's how long they've been, getting amped up, making the Iron Man movie. There's actually an Iron Man documentary on the development of Iron Man. And Iron Man doesn't get enough credit for how realistic at that time, we talking about 2008, that suit looked like. And if you watch the documentary, you realize that Tony is wearing a lot of the suit. It's not CGI. It's not all this fake stuff. It's very minimum. That was a real focus during development of Iron Man. And so in '08, They released Iron Man and it blew up. They was not expecting it to be such a success at the time. It was a huge gamble. Like I said, they borrowed over $500 million from Lynch. So they took a huge gamble on Iron Man, and when I say it's blown up into what it is now, where you can release a movie and expect, well, at one point Marvel was releasing movies and making $1 billion. Like that's how far it came just off that gamble. After Iron Man, Marvel just took off like a freaking rocket. Okay, the success of Iron Man launched the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They started interconnecting movies, which led to the Avengers in 2012, which was just 4 years later after the Iron Man release. Dang, I didn't even realize it was that fast. They did, they delved deep in connecting and building an entire universe. They actually ever since Iron Man was such a success, and they looked at their catalog and how to bring the characters together and make this web across the whole universe. It's really been a forefront thought and very deliberate how they picked the characters and how they decided to make them intertwine into a story. And because of this, mind you, Iron Man came out in 2008. Disney approached Marvel in 2009 and bought them for $4 billion. That's off of Marvel making a bet loan for $500 million, and then they was bought for $4 billion. Now, a lot of people ask, well, why did they sell? Why did they merge with Disney at the time for $4 billion if Iron Man was such a huge success like everybody was saying? And that's mainly because Disney money is old money, like I said. They was in a position where they was just now really clawing out of the bankruptcy, and they had the loan interest payments to make. So they still, even with the success of Iron Man and how much money it made, they still was looking at very much living check to check, basically. And so they needed money in order to make their vision come true, which is the Marvel universe. And who else at the time could they approach with the deepest pockets who could really fulfill that vision besides Disney? Because Disney, like I said, is old money. Listen, that pocketbook goes deep. And long as you bring it in return on investment, it'll go as deep as you need it to go. And so Marvel looked at it as a pillar just to get them to the point where they wanted it to be. A lot of people say, kind of sold out, but Marvel really looked at the purchase as a partnership more than a purchase, I guess you can say. That's what they'll note in the news and stuff like that around the time. But they just thought it was a key to building out a universe and a good storytelling that they wanted to do. And they wanted to tell these stories in a certain amount of time, because Marvel noted that if they would have stayed on their own, man, it probably would have took 6 years between each movie. Like, we would still probably be in phase 2 off that schedule. And then too, the marketing of Disney money, the universe probably wouldn't have reached as many people as that it reached, basically, is what I'm getting to. And so it was kind of beneficial for both parties. Like, when they agreed, Disney paid $4 billion and then gave financial backing for growth and development of the universe without much I guess supervision. They kind of let Marvel make the decisions on how they wanted to tell the story, of course, making it requiring it that it be PG-13 and family friendly, of course. The expansion opportunities, the global reach, it made sense for parties at the time. And it resulted in, that's one of the best $4 billion ever spent by Disney. The Marvel universe has generated so much money just off the movies, let alone the licensing and the toy licensing. And it's really made Disney relevant, because if you think about that time, just when, Iron Man 2 and everything after that, Disney was struggling with Star Wars. They were actually struggling quite a bit, and Disney was going out of their way looking for something with a deep catalog that they could use for the next 30 or 40 years. If you look at an article from back then, Disney said that actually they were struggling. The Pixar things were not, making as much money as they expected at the time. And so they were actually actively looking for something with large amount of IP that they can spread out for the next 30 years. So it was basically a relationship that benefited both at the time and gave both what they needed to really push into the next generation in the next decade. And it, like I said, best $4 billion ever spent, best probably return on investment Disney's ever had. Probably outside of Star Wars, maybe. But yeah, that's the whole backstory of Marvel, how they got started. Now, Marvel today, oversaturation again. It's kind of crazy when you look at how they started. They're kind of facing the same issues they were when they were a comic book. Oversaturation, gimmicky storytelling and storylines and characters, and it's really making the viewership of Marvel movies fall, just like it did back then in 1993. So it's kind of funny how a company that already faced a certain predicament 30 years later is facing the same predicament now. Now, you can say that's part of Disney's fault because maybe, hey, they require Marvel to push out a certain number of IP a year because they are such money makers. Or you can just say Marvel kind of lost themselves after Endgame and the whole web development of the universe. So I think it's blame on both sides, but it's kind of just funny how at the end of the day in history, everything kind of comes back around. And it's funny because if you so-called learned your lesson one time, you shouldn't be going through the same lesson a second time. So we'll see. Like I said, Marvel bounced back in 1993. They faced bankruptcy. I'm confident that there's no bankruptcy in the future of Marvel and Disney ever is going to happen. But they are facing a little reset, just like in 1993, and they need to sit and really talk about what they're going to do and the standard they're going to keep moving forward. But let me know what you think, what you have to say about the whole the storyline of Marvel.
So my thoughts on some of the things you said, which all of it is true. Marvel was going through some shit. Some of the changes they can look are different now versus then. Like as you said, they don't have to worry about bankruptcy and being shut down or closed because they're backed by Disney. Which I have a saying that you got Disney money, you can do anything. And them selling probably was because they knew, well, we're owned by somebody. We don't have to look or depend on these films to do whatever. We have an unlimited, and I believe that is why the MCU became what it was, because they had a unlimited budget to make sure whatever they did, it was going to be the best. That's one. I believe another part of their downfall is when Endgame happened, they should have stopped, took a look at all the storylines that they have in their repertoire and pick another one and start from scratch. They didn't do that. They chose to keep the story going, but now instead of all the movies being interconnected and telling the story, they added television shows and segmenting a chunk of certain audience members, because now if you go see a certain Disney movie and you don't know what the fuck is going on, what they're talking about, it ain't one Disney movie you might have missed. You might have missed 2 movies and 4 shows that break down what's happening in the background. And the most important commodity any consumer has is time, baby. Everyone, ain't got the time to spend like that because your average Marvel movie is 2.5, 3 hours long, if not more. So that's a problem. And I say it's also Disney's fault as well. Disney wanting more, a bigger portfolio, more return on investment. And like you said, they had them doing so many projects and so much to release, so much to make sure they covered so many bases, because when they struck and lightning in a bottle hit and they're like, oh, we just got to keep this going. Because I don't know if people know just how much Iron Man made a difference in Marvel's history. See, Iron Man is a household name today. 93 and early 2000s, Iron Man was not the go-to character that
He
he
was
is now.
a background dancer.
Yeah, like another thing when Trice was talking about when Sony bought the rights for Spider-Man and Fox got Fantastic Four and everything like that. A lot of people do not know. At one point, Marvel was offering Sony almost every character for the price they paid for Spider-Man, and Sony said, "No, we don't want them. We don't want
They
them.
said that those characters are
No
irrelevant.
kids, They're irrelevant. They don't mean nothing. We want Spider-Man. And it's funny how they took Spider-Man because, and this is fact. You can go look this up. Spider-Man is the highest grossing Spider-Man merchandise sales and sells well. From toys, clothes, stickers, whatever. His name is on it. It sells. He sells more, if I remember correctly, more than Batman and Superman. That's how popular Spider-Man is. He hits both demographics, young and old. Marvel, in my opinion, really should have, once they got done with the Infinity storyline, they should have looked at their chalkboard, whiteboard, whatever, and said, all right, in this here, take a whatever few years buffer period and start anew with a new story, and went along with that. This continuity thing that they have going on, it hurts you in the long run, because as new audiences and new members come to your circle to want to enjoy your product, no one is about to sit up here and be told, hey, to know where we're at right now, you got to go watch 10 movies, 20 shows, and play like 3 video games. That person's going to be like, you know what? I'm cool. I'm going back to Lord of the Rings. And they going to move on. That's just how it is. That and certain choices that they made with the shows played another hand into it. We don't need to get into all that. But from where they started to where they are now, it is completely different. And like I say, their success came from this, because Disney money is unlimited. I mean, each movie was making over $1 billion. Almost every movie. And that came from the high production quality in the movies. That and Kevin Feige. But we don't know what he's doing today or how much involvement he has, because it seems it's just not the same. Whether it's directors, producers, cutbacks, whatever. But Marvel at one time was in the gutter, plain simple and period. And then now, I mean, I don't know what the MCU is, or even if it's still called that. The latest movie I think came out was Thunderbolts, and I don't know.
Fantastic Four is the last one.
Oh, Fantastic Four. Oh, I'm sorry. Fantastic Four is the last one, and you don't hear the buzz, you know, that you used to hear with a Marvel movie.
Yeah, it is.
I won't even get on the Avengers when we ain't gonna use Iron Man. That's obvious. When an MCU movie came out, whether it be like a Thor movie, Captain America, whatnot, you couldn't avoid it.
Yeah,
Every
that marketing machine.
The marketing machine. It could be 2-3 weeks after the film came out, and them theaters were still packed. Your elbows are still rubbing against somebody like, yo, move.
It was very common for people to go see it twice or 3 times.
I saw Ultron, I think 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, I saw it
in
twice.
Theaters. Before now I can just watch whenever I want on Disney Plus. And that's another thing I believe was the downfall of the Marvel, and how I won't say downfall. Their turnaround, we'll say that. With Disney's ambitions to start a streaming service, and they knew that their catalog was not the greatest. It was not something that was going to be long lasting. Someone was not going to subscribe to Disney Plus just to watch Disney movies. So they had Disney movies, they had Marvel, and that was one of the reasons why they went out and bought Fox. They bought the entire catalog of movies, shows, everything from Fox except for sports and the news. That was the part of the deal. And they said in the interview, we bought Fox, boost our portfolio to have more. At one point, they wanted to go toe-to-toe with Netflix. That's why Disney Plus, when it came out, it was $6.99 or $6, wherever it was. And they're like, we're totally fine with it being this price, just to undercut Netflix. But it didn't work out that way.
That didn't last for long.
Yeah, it didn't work out that way, because they were, according to them, they're prepared to leave it at that price for a while, and was comfortable losing $1 billion. That's what they said, that Disney Plus would lose $1 billion over the course of like 3 to 5 years. And they were cool with that, because I guess they expected everything else to offset that. And that ain't how that played out. The movie started to tank, the viewership went down. Even Disney Plus as a whole, its catalog is stagnant. In a sense, you have Netflix, as far as I know, according to Netflix, majority of their money that they receive, they put it right back into the streaming service. At one point, when streaming services were taking off, Netflix had said in the public meeting, because everyone was pulling their content off to make their own, Netflix said, I can't remember what year it was, but at one point they wanted half of all content on Netflix to be Netflix original. And I can pretty much say they probably have succeeded with that, because you see more shit with that in the top left corner than you do anything else. And now the tables have turned with everyone trying to outdo or put Netflix to bed. Then now people are like, hey, we'll take a Netflix check and you can put this back on there.
The juice ain't worth the
So
squeeze.
the juice ain't worth the squeeze, baby. But that was just a little story time with Trice and the history of Marvel movies, how it all began from the outhouse to, to where they are now.
Yeah, and I just want to preference this too that I don't really have an issue with the TV shows because a lot of people argue that you just cannot fit a backstory and telling why the character is and do character development all in a 2-hour movie. Like, so I feel like some of these
That's very true.
characters could benefit from just being a TV show where we can get 8 to 12 episodes. Like the WandaVision. Oh, Chef's fucking Kiss. I'll rewatch that now. Whenever I can get your login to work. It's a great TV show. But the like others,
Falcon and
yeah.
Winter Soldier.
Yeah, that I didn't care for that. I did like
Agatha.
Yes, I love that TV show. I'm like, shoot, like you can keep on chick TV show, but not all TV shows hit, rightfully so. Not everything's gonna be a success, but I have no issues with the TV show if done correctly. Some things it's just really hard to cramp in a 2-hour movie. That's why I said in the last episode a lot of Marvel's introduction movies suck because they're trying to cram in all this shit in 2 hours, which is just you're just not gonna get a very cohesive story. And only few Marvel introduction movies work, like Iron Man, Guardians of the Galaxy, and a few others. Doctor Strange, his was a good intro movie, but everything else was like, the first Thor, Captain America, ill. So, but I say all to say that Marvel will be fine. They will bounce back. They have old money. It's just a little reset. And like I said, that $4 billion that Disney invested, even with the losses recently, still is one of the biggest ROIs for Disney. They bought Marvel for $4 billion. The Marvel universe has grossed Disney over $1 billion. So I think they're going to be fine. They just need to, I guess, learn a lesson they thought they learned in 1993 over again in 2025. That's all I got. Definitely let me know in the comments how you feel about Marvel, the rise, the peaks, and maybe this mini fall and mini reset, whatever you want to call this phase they're in right now. And if Marvel is making movies and TV show that get you to spend that $20 at the movie theater, I'll be real curious because I know I said I want to go see the Fantastic Four, but baby, the only reason I saw it is because we was looking for something to do and it was a movie theater in the mall. Because if not for that, baby, I would have just waited for it to hit Disney Plus.
I humbly agree. I believe I don't have issues with the show, like what you were saying, but I really do feel because every show is tied to another show that's tied to a movie. You don't. There are some people who want to know what's all going on, what that joke, that reference point was. Go to it. Like the She-Hulk show was tied to the Hulk from the movie, even though he was only in the first episode. If someone has never seen all the Avengers movie or don't know who the Hulk character is, they just want to check out, this female green tall lady. Oh, what's this? And every third line is a reference to something they have not seen. That puts off. And like what you said with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, you are trying to make, once again, a show that's tied to another form of entertainment. Let's just say someone didn't see the Winter Soldier movie. They just saw the first Captain America movie and some Avengers. And like, who the hell is Winter Soldier? And why is he fighting that black dude? What are they doing? And then now you tell them like, hey, he's this one dude who's this other guy's friend. And, they showed that. Oh, where, what show is that? Oh, no, it was in a movie, from like 10 years ago. The movie was almost 3 hours long. And you need to know why he's important to him because they showed him in the first movie. Your average audience don't have time. I believe that's another crucial part of the down. We're not going to drag this out along. We said what we said. Let us know, how do you feel about all this? Your thoughts? What's your favorite Marvel movie? Is it an Avengers movie? Age of Ultron? Or any of their other properties? Even video game. I'll go so far as Marvel Ultimate Alliance. Great co-op game series. And that's it for this video of Are You Not Entertained podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell so you'll never miss our next hot take. Until next time, are you not entertained?